I will be with roll call. It's gonna be Agent Trevino. George Narvaez.
Ashley, I'm sorry. It's the chairman will start with the calling to order the meeting. Right,
yeah, I was just trying to wait my turn, but yeah, you're right. So, okay, I guess I'm looking at West 1203. We'll call this meeting to order. All right, Ashley, good?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, we're going to start off with a pledge of allegiance. So, stand. They don't have the flag there on this time here, but and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, now, Ashley, it's on you. We'll go ahead and start roll call.
Agent Trevino.
Present.
George Narvaez.
Present.
Omar Gonzalez Longoria.
Present.
Arturo Tomás Benavides. Cristobal Rodriguez. Robert Judd Gilpin. Jose D. Gonzalez.
Present.
And Dr. Carlos Valle Jr. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a quorum.
All right, I guess. You know what? I didn't realize this last meeting was last month, so she's the one that's very vocal. But I guess we'll work with make a motion for the absences for the unexcused absences. Looking at raised hands. Adrian, okay. Second.
I second.
Okay, second, Doctor. All right. All in favor? Anybody against? Okay, motion passes. Absences are excused. Move forward. All right.
Hey, can you pardon me? I might have gotten counted absent just a moment ago.
Okay, you know what? You're right. There's a judge here, so Mr. Gilpin is here. So please just move Mr. Gilpin's name from the right to the left.
He's been marked present.
Great. Okay, I guess we'll start off the next. They've already had the previous minutes emailed out to everybody. If you have an opportunity to review them, if not, please do so. I'll give you a quick minute, and then we'll go ahead and make a motion to approve them. So let's go ahead and review the minutes. I want to keep this one kind of short because I'm working on the time frame. I got a couple of calls coming up after each hour. So on this one here, I guess if we're all had a chance to review since they're already previously mailed out, I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
This is Adrian. I move that we approve the minutes.
Adrian, okay. How about the second?
I'll second. This is Omar Gonzalez. I'll second.
Omar, second. Okay. Any comments? Anybody like to make any observations? All right. With that being said, all in favor of approving the minutes, aye, or raise your hand. Any opposition? Aye. All right. Minutes are passed. Good. We're right on schedule. Taking the next step, just to make a comment on citizen comments. Citizens are required to fill out a witness card and submit it to A. Garcia no later than 12:15 before the meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. So if any citizen has any comments, please submit comments prior to the meeting so we can go ahead and address them. But with that being said, let's go ahead and start off. Elsie, it's on you now, the staff reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we do have general staff comments at the end, but I did wanted to advise everybody that Mr. Miller's not in today. He's actually at an annual conference and would not be able to attend today. But he would like to say hello to everybody that's here present. I know we do have some changing board members as well. Mr. Miller is currently attending the Airport Council International CEO meeting to talk about airport's current goals and methodologies and modernization plans and best practices. So we'll be looking forward to his return on Friday to let us know new ideas that we can share with everybody. With that said, we'll go ahead and get started with the passenger report. As you can see, our numbers are still below usual figures from prior to COVID. So January, February of 2020, we would see on average around 7,000 enplanements, whereas right now we're doing around 56% below that. We do see more activity as we moved into April and the latter part of March. And I know they're not reflected in here, but you see them in the next meeting. But nonetheless, we're still very much affected by the pandemic as far as some passenger travel. And I think that's just industry-wise. We're seeing it across the United States and, of course, the world. But like I said, as with the vaccine rollout, especially in Laredo, we've been seeing, I think, a little bit more confidence in passenger traveling, either for leisure or business. I'll be honest, I think for the most part, what we're seeing is mostly leisure travel right now. So international, utilizing Aeromar with direct flights to Mexico City, or connecting to beach resorts in Mexico, Acapulco, Ixtapa, and whatnot. So those are seeing more positive numbers. I know since we restarted the hiatus in March after the CDC new procedures, we're seeing that we're going around 38% or so enplanements, a load factor that is, with Aeromar. So they're looking positive. And we do have some promotions that are going to be coming up in the latter part of April for Aeromar. And so we'll be able to share those with you in the next board meeting as well, what's going to happen. And we'll also email it to the board to let you know what Aeromar is going to be putting out. But we're looking at potentially some raffles of entire vacations, which would include travel and hotel for the first place winner. So there's some good incentives out there. And I know recently the current promotion with Aeromar, in this case, they're doing free luggage. So for every ticket that you book, it'll include a check-in bag for free and no charges in case you need to change your flight. So I think all of those promotions and the vaccine rollout and the positive low figures that we're seeing right now with COVID in our city, I think that's contributing to a little bit more passenger travel as we move into, like I said, into April. Now, similar promotions are being done by American Airlines and United as well, and Allegiant is seeing a lot more payments. I know this last week there were pretty much a full flight going to Vegas, and the American and United also have similar packages for if you need to book and then your travel needs change, there's no fees that would normally happen in case you need to change your flight date. So I encourage everybody to look up at their websites to see what some of those specials are. But I think once we move into the latter part of the year, towards the summer, we should see more, all trends are indicating that the summer months should be a little bit higher. And then moving into the last quarter of 21 should be more positive. But right now, we are still seeing about 56% prior to, in comparison to 2020. Ashley, can we go to the next one? Now, in cargo, it's totally different. We are at around 75% increase from the prior year. So that's even prior to pandemic numbers. We're already above those figures. So the cargo, both domestic and international, and we'll see international in a bit, are doing fairly good. What hurt us last year in 2020, when the pandemic started, is a lot of manufacturing plants had closed, had shut down, both in the US and in Mexico, of course. And then one would start, but the other one wasn't. So all of those factors contributed to affecting us in 2020. In the latter part of the latter part of 2020 into the last quarter of 2020, definitely cargo came back up for Laredo. We saw a tremendous increase, a lot of it through manufacturing plants started to reopen, and then also the PPEs that were being shipped throughout the different countries, or even, to bring into Laredo. So all of those factors contributed to coming back up to finishing the year of around 23% in 2020. But now into 21, we're seeing very good numbers. If you can go to the next one, Ashley, please. Now, as we talk into international cargo, out of that 75%, we see the figures that are coming in with these are the number of operations for cargo at the FIS. So these are all your international flights for cargo. And if you could see in February, we're already at a positive rate of around 515% over 2020. But now if we move into March of 21, the activity just skyrocketed. And so we're actually showing crazy figures of positive 2,734% over the previous year. Of course, these all figures are, it's just really hard to compare when you're doing it during a pandemic, but definitely cargo has been increasing. I see that same reflected in the bridge systems. So we hope the activity will be more normalized as we continue the year into 2021. I don't foresee these type of figures happening throughout the whole year. But I think it's just the manufacturing plants are probably playing catch up to everything that happened in 2020. And then, of course, there's some recalls that were announced from auto manufacturers recently. Can we go to the next one, please? And then passengers, these are mostly your private air charters or your private passenger airplanes. Even that, we're seeing an increase of around 500%, where we're seeing a lot of private airplanes coming into the U.S. You see that it went from January and around 200 operations. Now we're seeing around 700 operations. So that's not the number of passengers, that's the number of aircraft that we're seeing. Each aircraft could come with one passenger, the crew, or it could come with 20 people. It just depends. But these are the number of operations that we're seeing, and the operations are high. Can we move on to the next? And so if we continue this trend, as you can see there, the spike in blue is what we're seeing for 2021. We should finish up the operations, total operations, cargo and passengers right now for 21 is at an increase of 457% year over year. But again, I think everyone's just trying to catch up, and then also coming in either maybe to take vaccines or to make arrangements for family. Can we go to the next one? Then we see the fuel report. This is definitely very much correlated to the cargo activity that we're seeing, and of course the scheduled air carriers. 72% in fuel cells are looking very much positive. But as we go into the summer months, like I said, we're expecting to see more passengers as well. I know in May, American Airlines will be going to additional flights. So we're expecting around 6 flights per day from American coming in May, and they will be bringing back into service for Laredo the business, like business class. They're going to bring a CRJ in May. So look forward to that, because that's like a much larger plane rather than the 45-seater Embraers. But those are all nice amenities that our customers like to see when they're flying out of Laredo. Next. Then as we move into our delinquency report, again, we've been working very much with all of our tenants and our customers. It's looking pretty positive. We do have a couple of airlines and a car rental that we're working with to clear up their accounts and make sure that they send their payments on time. And what I see with United Airlines is mostly that they send their reports days after the closing of the month, and then along with the payment. So there's some lag time that happens in that time process. But other than that, we should have these cleared up by the next 2 weeks or so. And with that, I think we'll turn it over to Alejandro Labrada to talk about the status of the cargo apron reconstruction project.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and everybody. Ashley, can you put the... by the way, we are, Mr. Board Member Tom Benavides is trying to log in. He's having some issues. So Ashley's on the phone because he's been trying to get into the meeting. But just to FYI, that we're trying to, he's running some technical difficulties. Ashley, can you share the screen and put the that one. Mr. Chairman, this is phase 14, and we are almost done on the blue area that is on the south side where you have the orange.
Hello.
Yes.
Am I? Yes. Sorry. Okay. There we go. I'm finally in the meeting.
You were in the right spot. Hi, Tom. Welcome.
Okay. I'm sorry about that, guys. I was trying to log in, but it just kept telling me I had the wrong access code.
I'm glad you made it. You haven't missed any action items.
Okay.
So we're just to bring you up to speed. We're just going into the cargo apron reconstruction.
Okay. Awesome. And we have a quorum.
Yes, we do, sir.
Awesome. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I finally got in.
No problem. Welcome. Like I was saying, the blue area on the south side, next to the orange, is almost done. We are working on the other blue area that is on the north side of the airport, next to the red one. We're about right now. Yeah, we're about 10% done, but we're moving fast now. The contractor is moving really fast. And we have issued a change order number 1 that it was approved by the board last time. So that's going to give us all the funding and all the construction to go to the green area where it says phase 14 change order number 1. So we're going to be able to do the blue, the red, and the little green area where it says change order number 1. So we're on schedule, and the contractor is doing okay, doing good.
Yeah, I had a question, Alejandro.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, where that one's labeled, the last one you mentioned, it's green.
Mm-hmm.
It says change order number 1, but the other one right next to it that's blue says change order number 1. Is that just like a typo or?
No, it's because the funding is because the green is with grant 87 and the blue is with grant 90. We need to differentiate between the grants.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the next
under
change
the
order, we're
bottom.
gonna come back with you to do a change order. And it's gonna be a blue because it's gonna be a Grand 90. Actually, it's gonna be more like a field change order because we're gonna increase the quantities, but it's gonna be like kind of a zero change order on that. But that is the reason we have change orders, split the change orders. And the same thing, you're gonna be seeing that the red area is called for phase 15. That's Grand 92. In reality, our construction plans and drawings and everything is only for construction rehabilitation of phase 14. But FAA decided to give us Grand 14, Grand 90, and Grand 92. And the Grand 92, which is the red one, that's a supplemental grant that we got of about $5.3 million. So FAA, we need to separate the grants and do separate inspections, separate plans, separate pay applications and everything. So that's the reason it's kind of a little confusing, but that's a reason because of the grants. I hope I answered your question, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
And that concludes my presentation unless somebody else has a question. Okay.
Elsie,
Thank you,
and just
Alonso.
a question on our reports. I know that Omar last month requested that since 2020 was a unique year, it's hard to really determine the actual numbers, and he requested that we also add 2019. I see that you guys didn't do it. I was hoping you could do it maybe for next month so we can kind of like gauge ourselves how much an improvement there really is, you know, and see where we're going, taking into consideration that we anticipate, you know, economic improvements, considering where we're going with this pandemic. So I'm hoping for next month we can also include the 2019 reports as well.
Absolutely. And I think Ashley was going to contact them as well to get some more definition if that was going to be something that the board wanted henceforward in another report. I would think it was. And then also if you wanted it on the passenger and the cargo.
That's correct. And like I said, the only reason it kind of gives us a better gauge on how our improvement is going. Obviously, we're going to look like we're going up from the last year because, I mean, last year's numbers are just, you know, they're rock bottom basically. So we could kind of see where we kind of gauge ourselves that we need to actually find room for improvement or see what kind of direction we're going based on 2019 and 2021 because the numbers will be a little bit more valid.
Absolutely. Yes, we're already working on that. We'll go ahead and have that for the next meeting. And especially it's, you know, January and February, it's kind of hard because there's very little information as far as data comparison. But as we start going through the months, it'll definitely start painting a different picture. Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I think then if there's no other questions for construction, we'll move on to the next item. We are very much excited to present to the board on behalf of the team at the airport a recent study that was conducted, an economic impact of the Laredo International Airport. We, through of course, the Airport Advisory Board and City Council, there was an award made to GRA Incorporated. And we have here as a guest, David Weingart, who prepared the study. So we can go over some of the findings from this report, which I think shed some light as far as the impact and that both the passenger and the cargo operations at the airport. And it confirms and supports the leading role that the airport plays in our community. And then also that the support that is being given to the international trade and the job creation that we have here in this region. So with that said, I'll turn it over to David Weingart.
Great. Thanks, Elsie, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me here to join you today. We just have 5 slides here summarizing the economic impact study. There's a much longer, more detailed technical report that's available, but we'll try to get through this in 10 or 15 minutes here. So Ashley, if you're able to flip to the next slide. So this slide just gives a brief overview of what airport economic impact studies are all about. Basically, we're trying to measure the economic activity, jobs, and wages that are attributable to the airport. In particular, we also add in spending within Laredo by visitors who come in from the airport. Many airports do these studies every few years. Sometimes states will do studies of their entire system, as well as individual airports. Texas actually did one in 2018, but from a practical level, those don't really take into account the individual aspects of each airport. So as those of us who work with or for airports like to say, if you've seen one airport, you've seen one airport, and every airport has its own unique characteristics, and we'll see that as we get into the study. We collected used data both from publicly available sources. We used our knowledge of Laredo from our work with the airport on air service development. We did surveys of airport tenants, and we used data from the airport on employee badges. We also worked with the Convention and Visitors Bureau on visitor spending data, and we brought in national data from the U.S. Department of Commerce, which we used to estimate how the spending from the airport multiplies throughout the economy. One important note here is that we did this analysis using 2019 data, so we thought that would give a better steady state picture of the economic impact of the airport before the pandemic. So this is all 2019 data. So the trade-off for that is that we didn't include any impact from Aeromar's Mexico City flight. So going forward, that would certainly add to the economic impact of the airport once the aviation industry has recovered further. Can you flip to the next slide, please, Ashley? Great, thank you. So there are three main components to an economic impact study, and you can see the bottom line numbers here on this slide. The headlines are the airport is responsible for about 2,600 jobs, about $85 million in earnings, and roughly $272 million in output. Of that, we estimate that about $172 million is what's considered value added to the local economy. The other $100 million is estimated to come from inputs from outside the Laredo region. In total, we estimate that the airport is responsible either directly or indirectly for about 1.5% of the regional economy in Laredo. This is measured all for Webb County, since that's where how we get the multipliers from the Department of Commerce. But obviously, given that Laredo is about 95% of the county population, most of this is in Laredo. You can see the three components. We just defined them here at the top. The direct impacts are the employment and the resulting economic activity that's really directly attributable to businesses that operate at the airport. Indirect impacts are related to spending by employees of those businesses, their local spending, as well as spending by visitors who come into the region via the airport. And then the induced impacts, which you see in the third row, are all the respending of those wages and profits within the region as that all cycles through the economy. Go to the next slide, please. And here's where we kind of get into some of the unique aspects of Laredo compared to some of the other airports, kind of the general airport economic impact studies. So we looked at 6 industry segments that you can see on this slide, and the study that we did shows that air freight and cargo is the largest contributor to Laredo's economic impact in terms of output. That's kind of consistent with the statistics that Elsie showed a few minutes ago. You can see that air freight and cargo contributed about 35% of the total output and about 18% of the jobs. Visitor spending in the second row here is actually the largest source of the jobs, but the jobs for visitor spending, which tend to be restaurants, hotels, entertainment, tend to be a little bit lower in terms of average wages compared to the other industry segments. so the earnings and output impact is a little bit lower from those, but it's roughly a third of the total jobs attributable to the airport. Passenger airlines are included in the third line, part of the other aviation group. And another unique aspect to point out here is that the jobs and earnings for government activities, the Laredo governmental airport activities here are much higher than a typical airport of Laredo size, largely, obviously, the various DHS agencies that operate at the airport. And the average earnings of those jobs is higher than a lot of those other categories. You can see that there's roughly the same number of jobs as in the air freight and the other aviation groups, but the earnings here are significantly higher. But they don't get a big multiplier effect in terms of incremental economic activity. Can we go to the next slide, Ashley? So there may be some interest, I think, in the distribution of the employees and the businesses. So this was something that we looked at as well in the course of the study. The available data doesn't really allow us to get to a very micro level on this, but the two maps here give a little bit of a sense of how the economic activity is spread throughout the city. First, I'll mention, as the slide says at the top, that 83% of the direct jobs are airport badge holders who reside within the city. The greatest number are in zip code 78045. The badging data are available by zip code, so that was how we analyzed this. But an important finding, I think, is that there are more than 50 employees in each of the 5 zip codes within the city of Laredo. So it's not certainly concentrated just where, in a zip code where the airport itself is located. It's really spread throughout the city. In terms of where the businesses are located, that's in the blue colored slide on the right side of this slide, blue colored chart, excuse me. The majority are in the airport's zip code 78041, but again, they're spread, you can see, throughout the city. And then Ashley, if you just flip to the last slide. So the last thing to go over today is that we included an estimate of tax revenue generated by airport activity. This came out to about $11 million, roughly split evenly between sales taxes from activity that happens on the airport and taxes from visitor spending, including the hotel occupancy taxes, and then a little bit of a contribution to the Texas unemployment insurance tax as well from the jobs at the airport. So this is meant to be a quick overview. As I mentioned, we have about a 20-page technical report that I think is available and gets into more detail and has more charts and tables. We also worked to put together a 2-page brochure format that's meant to be an easy handout and contains a lot of this same information that we talked about this afternoon. So happy to take any questions that anybody had, but that's a quick overview of the study.
Mr. Chairman, I know we did hand deliver to every board member present a copy of the full report, which is listed as such. I don't think you can see it. Sorry. But either way, if any of you need an additional copy, please let us know. We can definitely get that to you. It is already posted also on the City of Laredo website, and it will be coming shortly also in the airport website. So if you need it for future reference, you have it available and it's open. It's going to be available to all the public as well.
Thanks, Elsa. I appreciate that. And David, it's very informative. Appreciate the information you provided. I feel it's very beneficial for studies and also to review, so we can go ahead and make any sound decisions that we're working forward to with any of the projects that we tend to evaluate here within our advisory committee. So appreciate the information.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate the opportunity to work on the study. Certainly an interesting project. Thank you.
Elsie, do we have anything else, or?
No, Mr. Chairman, we can move on to the action item.
How about no general staff comments? Nothing?
Just in regards to Jeff being at the airport International Council CEO meeting.
Okay, and also, I guess I want to, I guess I'll put it up towards the end because I know that, Liz, in taking consideration we didn't get a chance to properly say goodbye to Liz, but I guess we got to also vote on having a co-chair, the chair, a vice chair on there as well. So we got to.
The next board meeting as an action item.
Sounds like a plan. So we'll move forward with that. So with that being said, I guess we'll move to the action items, like you said.
Yes, sir. And today, for this agenda, we only have one action item. It is actually a contract that we would like to recommend to the an existing contract with the airport to lease premises in which they develop a hangar. And so what we're trying to do is, last meeting we had the fuel farm contract, and now we're trying to match both so that way they finish up around the same time term, the same year. And so we're requesting until 2035, which will match then now with their fueling operation. So they have private fueling that they do for their aircraft. All other terms and conditions will remain the same in the lease agreement, sir.
That's good. Is there anybody like to have any discussion on this prior to making a motion on this to move forward with this? With that being said, would anybody like?
Motion approved.
Is Judd?
A second.
Second.
Omar Gonzalez.
No more. Omar, okay, second. Okay. All in favor? Aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposition? It's not. The action passes. Motion passes. A little bit ahead of schedule, so since we only have very short action items. Any additional requests? I know I made a couple to make sure that we have the 2019 added on there as well, and then we can kind of bring it up. Do we give anything out as well for the vice chair? We can go ahead and, I don't know if we're going to have on-site meetings yet, or when we plan on starting, or how we're going to work this out, taking into consideration the circumstances. And I know that I did receive my package. So, because Elizabeth was very vocal, and she's always there and making comments, and we all know how she participated. So we should be very sorely missed, you know. And I dear and always kept me on my toes. I can tell you that. So, the next vice chair. Elsie, any comments? Additional comments?
No, Mr. Chairman. I think with that concludes the action items that we had pending. If there's any other comments or requests, we can certainly add them to it, and we'll go ahead and work on the next on the next board meeting agenda, so that way we can include the action item for chair and vice chair, if I'm correct. And then we'll go ahead and work on a plaque. We normally do a plaque for the members as they finish their term. And I'll leave it up to you, Mr. Chairman, if you would like to have, I know full time. For the most part, we're limiting in-person meetings. We're starting to have them, but they're very much limited and maybe whoever from the board members would like to participate, maybe be present and do the plaque presentation here. Invite Miss Elizabeth to be in person. I'll leave it up to the board. whatever, we will take direction from the board.
So like a plan, I guess, what's the limit that we could, considering the board, usually we're at 5 or 6 for quorum, but I don't know how many would be willing to attend. Considering staff as well.
Yes, normally we would have no more than 10, in any one time, 10 people in the meeting.
I think we could do that. So if allowed, maybe we could have an on-site meeting if those are willing to participate, and those that don't, I'm sure that we could do the virtual and on-site and make sure that we can comply with quorum requirements and move forward. So I don't know if anybody else had any comments on that or would like to make any additional comments.
We'll send out the invitation. If you're going to be doing in person, we can go that way. And then that way we keep track of how many people will be coming in person. And so that way we close off that room at that point for only those individuals. And then the rest will be through web.
Fair enough. So I guess we'll work on a first come, first serve until we get to say, you know what, we got to that point. So, but other than that, if there's nothing else, I guess we got.
So moved.
So we'll go ahead and George Narvaez, more motion. Adrian to go ahead and second. All right, I guess I'm all in favor if we adjourn and we just turn off the cameras.
Everyone.
Y'all have a nice day. I apologize for being late.
Okay. Nope.